Illumination Publishers presents Mighty Man of God, A Return to the Glory of Manhood by author Sam Laing. Chapter 9, Discipline. We begin this chapter with the last of the fruits of the Spirit mentioned in Galatians, chapter 5, verses 22 and 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is self-control. Without discipline, you will never become a mighty man of God. You may long for honesty, humility, and purity with all your heart. You may aspire to be a man of loving kindness and to experience the joy of God. You may seek courage, but without discipline, none of these great qualities will be yours. You may make some progress, you may make some changes, but unless you are disciplined, none of them will last or become permanently etched into your character. Discipline is essential. The first section of chapter 9 is titled The Power of Discipline. All of us have known men whose lives were full of promise. They seem to have it all: talent, looks, intelligence, personality, opportunity. They seem to have it all, but they could never put it all together. Even in the church, we have known men like this, brothers who we thought would rise to become outstanding men of God, but who never reached their potential. Why not? Many times it boils down simply to this: these men lacked discipline. I can say without equivocation that I have never known a great man who was not supremely disciplined. No man can rise in his profession, build a godly character, or grow in his spiritual life without a generous dose of discipline. We might temporarily dazzle our way to the top. We might make a good impression for a period of time, but ultimately, if we are not disciplined, our weaknesses will bring us crashing down in flames. I can also say that I have never known anyone who was naturally disciplined. Discipline comes easier to some than others, but it is something everyone must work at consciously. I remember well a conversation I had on this subject with Kip McKean, one of the most disciplined men I know. I complimented him on his exemplary discipline and asked him how he did it. He informed me that in spite of the seeming effortlessness of his organization, it was not as easy as it appeared. In words reminding me of Paul's observations in 1 Corinthians 9, verse 27, Kip said, "I have to beat myself and force myself to be disciplined. Most people think it comes easy to me. It doesn't. It is a habit I have worked on for years, and it is something I have to stay on top of all the time." I left that conversation encouraged that I could change and that by tapping the power of the Holy Spirit, anyone else could too. Discipline is basically the ability to subordinate. It is the capacity to say yes to the right or best thing and the ability to say no to the wrong or lesser thing. It is the sign of a mature man, a seasoned man. It is the true hallmark of a mighty man of God and permeates every area of his life. The next section, Permeating Discipline, is divided into 5 subsections. We begin with subsection 1, Discipline of the Mind. We must have a disciplined mind. Paul tells us in Romans chapter 8, verse 7, that we must set our minds on the things of the Spirit if we are to be spiritual people. All disciples are indwelt by the Holy Spirit, but not all are under his control. Only those disciples who set their minds on spiritual things become spiritual people. The power to change comes from God, but he places upon us the responsibility of tapping into that power. One key to tapping the power of God is by setting our minds on his word. I decided that I had to change. I saw that Jesus was different from me, and if I meant business about Jesus being my Lord, then he would have to be the Lord of my personality. I had to stop accepting the way that I was and allow God to transform my life and heart. I came to believe that, despite how difficult it might be to overcome years of bad habits and joyless attitudes, God could change me. We continue on to subsection 2, Discipline of Emotions. We must discipline our emotions. A man of God must do what he ought to do, not just what he feels like doing. There may be times when anger, discouragement, or a bad mood tempts us to be less than the men we should be, but the spirit of manly discipline will cause us to do the right thing. This is especially true of our moods. Moods are an aspect of our emotional lives that must be brought under the control of our minds and our wills, and ultimately under the lordship of Jesus if we are ever to become truly disciplined men. Many of us, though, are accustomed to giving in to our moods. If we wake up feeling a bit discouraged, we allow this feeling to affect our entire day. If we experience some frustration, we give in to irritability as if it were inevitable. We act as if our mood is the ultimate reality, that because we feel a certain way, then that is how we must remain until it passes. How ungodly is this mindset, and how contrary to the teaching of the Bible and to the example of Jesus. Moods are a product of thought, and what we think about is a choice we make. The solution is simple. To change our mood, we must change the thoughts and attitudes that produce the feelings in the first place. I am a person who feels things deeply and have had to work hard in learning to discipline my emotions. No man has helped me more to do this than my friend Steve Sapp. Many times when I have found myself in a passionate frame of mind, he has helped me to contain my feelings and direct them into a productive and holy path. At other times, he has helped me see that my emotions, though strong, were selfish and misdirected, and that if I gave in to them, I would at best be making a mistake or at worst, sinning. I am deeply grateful for Steve's influence in my life, and if you are a man of deep feeling, I would urge you to value, cultivate, and listen to friends who help you discipline your emotions. We now move on to subsection 3, discipline of desires. We must discipline our desires. Included are the appetites for food, for sex, and for pleasure. None of these desires are wrong in and of themselves, but are wrong when they are dominated by selfishness rather than the will of God. Discipline will enable us to keep our appetites on a leash, the leash of righteousness. We continue to subsection 4, a disciplined schedule. We must discipline our time. All men possess the same amount of time. It is how each man uses his time that determines his ultimate impact. If you fritter away your time, your life will be a waste. If you do not learn how to organize your time, you will be overwhelmed by your responsibilities. Many of us could do more, but our refusal to bring our time under the lordship of Christ holds us back. Purchase some sort of daily calendar, be it old-fashioned or high-tech, or download an app, and get in the habit of using it. Set aside a few minutes at the beginning of every day to plan your schedule. I find that the best time for me to tackle this task is right after my quiet time, when I am most spiritually attuned. I have made it my habit to go immediately from my time of prayer and Bible study to planning my day. I have found that this brings God into the details of my schedule, and that I am able to take on the challenges before me with a much greater sense of God's presence and power. After many years of effort, I have developed my own daily planning sheets that are uniquely adapted to my lifestyle and responsibilities. I have them programmed into my computer and have learned, after practice, to use my system well. It has saved me countless frustrations and has delivered me from inefficiency and failure. I would urge you to either develop your own system or to utilize one of the many excellent systems available on the market. Cell phone apps and AI software for scheduling and planning have truly enhanced our ability to do this. Our greatest challenge is summoning the determination and persistence within ourselves, but the rewards are immeasurable. Remember, even the best time management system in the world will do you no good unless you use it every day and unless you consult it frequently throughout the day. I urge you, do not waste another day being undisciplined with your time. Make a decision to change and do not quit until you have mastered it. We conclude this section with subsection 5, organized surroundings. We must discipline our environment. You cannot become a mighty man if you live in an environment of chaos. Look at your work area, your desk, your closet, your garage. Are these areas organized or are they cluttered and messy? God is not a God of confusion, but of order. If we are to be godly men, then we must bring order into our surroundings. Gain a solid conviction about this, then start where you are. Clean up your desk. Create a simple filing system, both physical and digital, for your bills, records, and other important documents. Go into your closet and throw out all the junk and old clothes you have been hoarding. If you are married, get ready to get a big hug from your wife. Notice how much better you feel. And don't you enjoy all those great compliments you get from the disorganized, messy people around you? The next section is titled Enemies of Discipline. There are 3 enemies of discipline that deserve our special attention. The first is procrastination. The undisciplined man is often characterized by this common but deadly fault. Putting off what we need to do is a habit we can and must break. When Abraham was told by God to go and sacrifice his son Isaac, we read in Genesis 22, verse 3, that he got up early, the next morning, to carry out this trying assignment. If we learn to tackle difficult tasks early in the day, then we find that we are less burdened and more full of joy, and that we get more done. The man who delays the onerous and unpleasant task is only making things harder for himself. The second enemy of discipline, indecision, is closely related to the first. Many of us, when confronted by the numerous options, cannot bring ourselves to make a decision. We fret, fume, and worry. The longer we wait, the harder and more complicated the task and the decision become. When deciding important matters, we must not rush, to be sure. We must seek God's will in prayer, study, providence, and in wisdom from spiritual friends. But for many of us, we delay too long in making decisions, and we will not be firm once we have made them. Lateness is the third enemy. We are late getting out of bed, late going to bed, late for appointments, late for work, late for class, late for church, late in paying our bills. We may be only a little late, but we are late nonetheless. Some of us feel badly about it and fret and fume all the way to our next late arrival. Others of us have little or no conscience about our tardiness, but those around us must bear the consequences of our lateness. To conquer this terrible weakness, we must move it from the realm of being a minor offense to one that is laid at the feet of selfishness, pride, rudeness, and laziness. When we look at our tardiness in this light, we will finally see it for what it is. Let me offer several practical suggestions to overcome this weakness. Number 1. Gain a conviction that lateness is selfishness and sin. This will increase your motivation to conquer it. Number 2. Stop over-preparing. Many of us are late because we cannot resist doing one more task before we go out the door. To conquer this, try having everything ready in advance. Then you will not be caught trying to get ready to go at the last minute and under pressure. Number 3. Give yourself a generous margin of time. Some men, in the name of efficiency, try to live by split-second timing. Life is too full of the unexpected for this plan to work. The last-minute delay, congested traffic, a conversation on the way out the door, all these and more seemingly conspire against a closely timed schedule. If you, like me, are a chronic underestimator of time, just add a few minutes to everything you plan to do, and you will find you start arriving on time without fuming and fussing. The only way to become a disciplined person is by making it a habitual part of our character. We must become so disciplined that it finally becomes second nature. But this is not easy. It usually takes about 2 weeks to begin a new habit and about 6 more weeks to make it a standard part of our lives. At first, the change seems awkward, and the temptation is to quit in discouragement. Then, if we manage to get through the difficult first 2 weeks, our tendency will be to lose focus and slip back into our old ways again. This is when it is critical to stay with our new habit. Once you establish it, it will become your lifetime friend and ally. I used to fail to get up on time in the morning. I would set an alarm, but after it went off, I would lay in bed for a few or many minutes before getting up. When I did finally get out of bed, I would be in a rush, be angry with myself, feel guilty for blowing it again, and lose my sense of joy and confidence for the day. Not a pretty picture. I finally came up with the 2-alarm system, wherein I set a radio alarm on my nightstand and set another loud and unpleasant alarm across the room, timed to go off 5 minutes later. It worked. It got me out of bed on time, and I enjoyed the change so much that I have maintained this habit into my adult life. This is but one example of how to break a pesky bad habit, to encourage you to use your head and your heart to make the needed changes in your discipline. May your habits become a blessing and not a curse in your life. The final section is titled 2 Keys. The 2 keys to becoming a disciplined man of God are conviction and determination. Most people I know who are not disciplined do not have a great conviction about it. Others claim that they have tried to become disciplined, but that it is simply beyond their powers. They have given up, taking the attitude of, "I guess I just don't have what it takes to be disciplined." The truth is, everyone has the ability to become disciplined. If you see the need, and if you are willing to stay with it, discipline will eventually become a way of life for you. You simply must continue to try until what now seems awkward becomes habitual and natural. As we conclude Chapter 9, believe and resolve that a world of newfound accomplishment awaits you. Decide that you will tap into the power of God to help you and that you will forever leave behind your old life of laziness, disorganization, and failure. Become a disciplined, mighty man of God. And as the scriptures say in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, "For God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but a spirit of power, of love, and of self-discipline." Mighty Man of God Audiobook. Copyright 2025 Illumination Publishers, all rights reserved.